Hello and welcome to this first in a series of videos where we're going to take a look at the Sonic Couture contact instruments which we downloaded in the previous video. So if you haven't got those, just go and see the previous video and get those downloaded and installed. And now we're going to take a look at some of the sound creation facilities that you've got in them because they are actually, I think, quite interesting. So here I've got a track with a contact in, and as you can see, amongst others, we've got the 4 Sonic Couture free instruments in there. So going to load up Tape Choir first because that's the one we looked at and it's got some interesting sounds. So here is Tape Choir. So you've probably already had a quick noodle with this, but going to have a look at the controls and what you can do with them. So we've got a few sections here. We've got tape, which is really the sort of generating oscillator part. So this is what creates the sound. And then if you've seen the synthesis series or synthesis introduction, you'll know that there is a filter and an amplifier, both of which are controlled by envelopes in most synths, and that's exactly what we've got here. So we've got a filter where you can change the sonic balance in terms of what frequencies are present. We've got 2 envelopes. You don't see the amplifier as such, but this is the amplifier envelope. And then on the second page here, we've got the filter envelope. And we've also got a reverb and chorus, which you can play around with. So the default sounds are quite pleasing. We can noodle around with them pretty quickly, so we're just going to go through some of these controls here. So the loops control, controlling that volume, and we've got most interestingly the detune. So you can instantly head into that bit in the science fiction film where the guy has just revealed his evil plan to destroy mankind, etc. Warmth. It's interesting, and we've got choice between 2 EQs. I know not what they do. On the second page, we've got noise, which is quite interesting because there's already some noise present, and you can really clearly hear that. And maybe if we turn the loops down, so we can hear just those a lot more. Let's bring that down. And high frequency roll off. So this just takes some of the top end off. So it's a bit of filtering, but you'll see it only goes down to about 12K. And depending on how old you are, you might not be able to hear that anyway, particularly if you're a drummer. Gain. So we can hear we've got a bit of sort of internal distortion happening in there. And then we've got wow, which is a relic of tape machine. So this is like low speed changes in tape speed. So you can hear that wobbling about like your rubbishy old tape recorder you had if you got one for Christmas when you were sort of 5, if you were my age. And then speed. So it's kind of a formant shift kind of thing happening, which can get some interesting tonal changes in there. Now, there's more interest for me in the filter and envelope section. So the filter types, just like you saw in Retrolog, so we've got a variety of different filter types in here, including sort of ladder filters, which are simulations of the kind of filters which are in Moog synths, etc. All sorts to play around with. So there's hours of experimentation just playing around with these. And as you probably saw previously, we can just tweak the cutoff frequency. So even if you're just playing some chords, you can make it just by manually manipulating those controls. You can get some interesting effects by doing that. You can put in some resonance. I'm not going to do too much because it sounds pretty loud and it's going to be a bit unpleasant on YouTube. So careful with your ears, etc. But you get you can hear that working in there. But if I go too high with it, it gets a bit too much. And this effect will change depending on which filter you're using. So if you're on LP2, you get a different kind of thing. We'll turn that up a little bit. And LP1, see, less severe. And so on. Okay, so there's fun to be had there. The envelope control will allow the filter envelope, which is on page 2, so it's hidden by default, to control this. So the times on these are quite I think they're quite interestingly done, because you see them when you click on here, and you can see that even at this point, it's only 600 milliseconds. So you've got a lot of fine controlled low down. And then as you go up, it gets much quicker, and you can still go to 15 seconds for your attack. So setting this to about there, and then dialing in a bit of envelope control. So now effectively, the filter envelope is going to be grabbing the cutoff control and turning it up. And you can hear it doing that. So I'm going to make that a little bit longer and turn this down a bit more and turn this up a bit more, so the envelope has more authority. And then let's make that turn down over a little longer as well. Maybe that's a little low. There we go. So you can automate that process, so then when you play it, you can get some more interesting sounds. And remember, with this, you can negatively affect this as well. So you can make the filter close if you want to. So it can start out open, and then this will close it. So we can turn it the other way around. So if we turn the cutoff up and turn this down, then now it's going to bring it down. And then in this case, come back up again, because we've got no sustain level. So it's bringing it down and then allowing it to come back up. So we can stop that if we want by putting the sustain to 100%, 0 dB. And we need to do the same. Yeah, we've got the same on there. So there's some playing around to be done on this. So there's definitely fun to be had. So I'm going to put this back to where we were. Now, velocity, which was already dialed in, my bad. This is the amount of sort of size of the filter envelope is controlled by velocity. So if this is on 0, then you always get the same filter envelope. But if you've turned this up, then the harder you hit it, the bigger envelope you get. And if I do the same thing again with low velocity, you can hear not only does it do the volume, but also it doesn't do the tone anywhere near as much. So let's just turn that up. Turn this down. Yeah, so that's working more now, and we can really, you can hear there. So if I just play a single note gently, we don't get much of it in volume or in tone, but then if I hit it hard, we're getting both. So you've got some useful performance control that you can get there. We've got the same for the amplitude envelope here. So by default, that's got a bit of attack on there. So in fact, what I'm going to do is turn the filter off effectively by putting the cutoff frequency all the way up and envelope down. Here we're hearing it's taking 1.1 seconds to open up. If we bring that down, you get to hear the beginning of the samples which are in there. And if you need to do a synthetic Flying Pickets tribute act, this is clearly the synth for you at that point. So you've got some, again, quite a lot of controllability in here. The defaults are fairly well chosen for giving either kind of appropriate envelope for a choir sound, but of course you can play around with it. Finally, we've got the mix control for the reverb. So it's got a big reverb on there. If we turn that off completely, it sounds quite different. So it's quite nice. We've got this hall control on here. We've got saturation. So yeah, a fair bit of distortion on there. So, you know, tape saturation, as you can see, it's a tape-based instrument nominally. And then chorus and the width of stereo as well. So yeah, I mean, that sounds drastically different on headphones, certainly. And chorus. So you've got loads to play around with here. And look, we've got all these different effects. So here we can pick different one here, and then we get a different reverb. So there's loads to play around with in here. This really is quite incredible for a free instrument. Now, you may want to save these sounds. because after all, you might pick a patch and think, oh, that's great. So if you do, click on the little camera and then you can create a snapshot. So here you've got the save snapshot. You can give it a name. So I'll just call it default choir and then save that. And then I can go for the crazy filteringness and go, yeah, you know what? I want this wackiness back. So we'll put all that in there. And again, I can save another one there. Call it filter choir. And then now I've got 2 snapshots I can go between nice and quickly. And you can build up, obviously, a little bank of sounds that you've created, because there's plenty to create with this kind of thing. So that's, I think, for free, this is a pretty great instrument. And also it's a good learning tool because there's some nice sounds to be had in there without totally screwing things up, which is often the case with, you know, more complicated synthesizers. It's easy to end up in a blind alley, whereas with this, you're pretty always, you know, one control from being able to hear what you're doing again, which is good. So anyway, that's been a quick look at the features of Tape Choir. In the next video, we're going to take a look at some of the other Sonic Couture instruments. So I hope you found that useful, and I'll see you again soon.